Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by Ideate Software. Be sure to check out all of their great Revit applications designed to increase your productivity.
We got a blinking light. That means it's BIMThoughts time. We've got Harlan. We've got Sasha. That means it must be an episode where we talk about the new version of Revit. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We also have Dana DeFilippi. I got her name right. We got the Carl Storms, who's the on drums, we'll say, Carl Storms. And so welcome, Harlan. Welcome, Sasha. Thank you once again for joining us on BIMThoughts. We have a video version this time, as you can tell. So if you are listening on the podcast and want to see the video, head over to the YouTubes and watch it there. If you just want to listen, then by all means, just listen. We don't care. But go to YouTubes and click the watch button anyway, just to up that view count. That would make us happy. So Harlan, what's new and exciting?
How much time do we have today? I think the question I had was how many albums are there that we're going to
How many albums do we have? We have as many albums as you want to give us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. So yeah, lots to talk about.
Right. Great.
Yeah, we are super excited about this release. I don't
really.
Think I 100%. I can't think of a release that I've been this excited about.
Really? So this is better than the last one you were this excited about?
Yes.
That's great. That is great news. Do you have any slides to show us or anything groovy like that? Or are we just going to wing it and be talking heads?
Let's just wing it.
All right, we're going to wing it. Be talking heads.
Seems fitting.
Seems fitting. All right, so let's start with the number 2 requested feature. Just to spice things up a little bit.
That was a question. I think Bill has this very strange way of requesting things from people.
Yeah.
I'm actually racking my brain like, which one does he mean?
Yeah, I know
which one do I mean? All right.
Two of these now, and I'm like, I don't have to.
I'm looking at the big list of 80 features right now that someone gave me. And it's let's talk about native PDF export.
That is a great place to start.
Because it's the number 1. It's at the top. Number 2 is linked to Rhino files. But we'll start with native PDF export.
Yeah, native PDF export's been a while in the making, but it's funny, right? It's again, it's PDF, right? So how exciting can it be? But it is the thing that everybody has been asking for. So from that perspective, I'm really happy to say that we were finally able to deliver it. And not only is it great because now you get capabilities like printing different sheet sizes together. Isn't that exciting? Because it's actually a virtual document.
Wow.
But yeah.
No way.
But we also have the ability to customize naming with parameters from your model.
Oh.
So that flexibility and automation you can actually do much easier than you had to. Than it was
wow.
before.
So I don't have to do that now after it's printed in Bluebeam with the way cool auto mark feature.
Yeah, actually, the naming can be automated basically based on parameters in the when you create the PDFs. So
that's great. So it'll do different size sheets. It'll do parameters. It'll work great, and we'll be happy.
That's the hope with everything in this release. Yes.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And then it's one more thing that we can cross off the top 10 list for request for Revit, which is always very exciting. Those things tend to be very large projects. So any day that we get to say check done, that's a good day.
Right. And those little ones too that are easy to fix, like changing a default, those are always fun ones as well. And I'm sure that you like doing those just as well, I would hope, because they make our lives easier. So Rhino, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so we basically added the ability now to link in a Rhino file into Revit. So last year we added import, and now we're adding link.
Okay.
It should make it a lot easier for people if they're working live with Rhino and they want to be able to do updates. Those updates will then carry through whenever there's a change. So it's pretty standard functionality that we support for other file formats, and this is bringing us to Rhino as well.
That's great. Now let's see what else is cool and exciting that we want to learn about. Seamless concept modeling with Format and Revit. I thought Format was like, what's going on with Format these days?
Format's been doing really well. It's actually been changing and growing quite a bit, and adding a lot of cool functionality. If folks haven't tried it, I recommend taking a look. And for 2022, what we've done, two things. We've added the ability to import AXM or Format files directly into Revit. So native, basically import CAD. Now you can choose an AXM file. We also added a new button under the massing tab for what we call 3D Sketch, which for AEC collection customers, if you have Format Pro on your machine and Revit and you click 3D Sketch, it actually will give you the ability to take your whatever Revit model or context you have and push it into Format, and then you can do modeling in Format. It'll actually launch Format for you, bring in the Revit geometry, whatever you've selected or chosen to bring in. You can do your modeling then in Format, and then you can press another button to send it back to Revit. And it'll only send back the stuff that you modeled in Format, and letting you kind of do that looping design exercise if you want to do more like, other kind of geometry or other kind of things that you want to be able to model or place or do things kind of in a more generic way, doing that in Format and then bring it back into Revit.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, Carl, you still playing around with Format?
Well, that's an interesting question you bring up, Bill, which was going to lead to my question.
Okay.
I used to play with Format, but now where I'm working now, we don't have access to the AEC collection, so we no longer have access to the Format Pro, which gives it the tie into the Format Pro on your Windows and the tie into Dynamo and those sort of things, similar to the generative design inside of Revit. So it's a little bit tough to work with those things without the collection, but that's a whole other different problem. But well, actually, that brings to my next question with that. Do you know if there's going to be a way in the 2022 and going forward to allow people that don't have access to the collection? Not necessarily me, a developer, but I'm thinking more for the students who are the type of people that be using a student license of Revit or Format, that would be the ones that would really want to work with this stuff, break this stuff. They really get in there and do the things that we don't think of in industry when they're really trying to do those pie in the sky things, which is the fun stuff.
Yeah, Format, I believe Format Pro is included if you're in education or if you're a student, you can get access to it just like all of our products. Basically we give everything away for a student. The AEC collection has some minor differences there that might be not quite there. But one of the things we've been trying to do with education and with students is treat them like subscription customers. So they should, in theory, get everything that a subscription customer and paying customer would have access to as well. And so we're making steps in that way. There's a few things I think that are very AEC collection specific that we're still working through. Like generative design is an example of that. There's a roundabout way for students to get access to it, but it's not as easy as it should be.
Well, I think that's a good way to go about it. And, as things progress and that becomes, more connected, but it also gives them sort of an idea of what it's like to work in the real industry with the real industry collection, getting access to, software licenses, going to the portal to download things. So sure, there's going to be the IT professional or the instructor behind the scenes doing that, but the more they can get access to the content they're going to use out there when they get a job and interact with it the way that's actually going to happen, I think is very beneficial. So I think that's a big plus to be treating them in that way and having them access the same as they will once they, get on the job site. So I think that's good to know.
All right, Dana, shoot a question off on the Dynamo stuff. I'm sure you've got questions.
Where do I start? I feel like It's actually not necessarily going to be so much about Dynamo. It's going to be what don't I have to do with Dynamo now, right? Like, what are some of the things that you guys have built in that I've been having to do with Dynamo all along, right? Like, for example, it looks like we can now filter by family and type in schedules, which I don't know whether you saw the first episode of my Dynamo BIM Dynamo shorts was outsmarting view filters. So right there, I feel like it's already starting to get some, just essentially more data being shared within the model. Can you talk a little bit about that maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually, there's a lot of small kind of enhancements that are part of this release that really do start to focus on the ability to access the data in your model. And these are kind of the changes that make people's day-to-day lives much easier. And so I think that is absolutely the focus overall for this release, that the things that you had to find workarounds for in Dynamo previously, hopefully at least some of them are now addressed in ways directly in the product, so you don't have to go do those workarounds. I'm going to kind of go to tangent here and also say, not only are we doing that kind of with small day-to-day working processes, we're also thinking about it from a platform perspective for how we can make that data more accessible in other tools. Some of that is not going to be really obvious from this release and what we're thinking about going forward, but we are kind of restructuring the underlying pieces of our product so that we can do that in the future. So, anybody who is an API developer this year will notice there's a lot of changes to how parameters work. That's because we're doing internal changes and we're getting ready for kind of rethinking about how people interact with parameters in the future. And you'll see that on our roadmap. But those are kind of things. Sometimes things may not be very obvious in this release, but in the future, hopefully you'll see the impact of those changes as we go forward.
Yeah, I would just add, on the schedule side, we've done a number of things to improve data, like just cleaning up some of the inconsistencies, like material takeoff schedules now support basically every category. Multi-category schedules support every category, or every model-based category that you're measuring. What was that, Dana? Sorry.
Even wall sweeps?
Yeah. Yep.
Yay!
It's included. So like basically if you do a multi-category schedule in 22, you see everything that's there. And that's a pretty significant change. And we've added, in general, like system families were the thing missing for multi-category schedules before. So all those like wall sweeps, walls, railings, all that is added. And the same thing goes for material takeoffs. Anything that was missing is basically now added. And then we did, you mentioned filter by family and type. We also allow work sets to be scheduled and changed. So it's, again, that bidirectionality. If you want to do QA/QC on your model, you can set up a schedule, show the work set, control it, understand what's happening there. And then we did like a little change, which is exporting. So Revit has always exported schedules, but they did it to a text file, which somebody was like, well, how do I use this? Now we export by default to the CSV. So like, just a quick, easy thing. You don't have to worry about changing it. It kind of it's a little bit like that quality of life of like, oh, I just know what this is now. And then we made some pretty big schedule enhancements. The first one being split schedules across sheets. So now if you have a big long schedule and you need to split it up, really easy to split it up. It does automatic placement, splits it into sections, lets you see those sections in the project browser, control them. And probably the second biggest customer request is now shared parameters work in key schedules, which should almost foundationally change a lot of workflows that people wanted to do before, but they were limited because of the inability to use shared parameters. And so now you can do all sorts of cool stuff. And it's not just like in the key schedule you can put them, but they actually control geometry and they control parameters. So if you want to change a bunch of things all at once, you can do that through a key schedule now, which is really kind of a big foundational change to how you use Revit every day, probably.
That's why you learned Dynamo right there. It's because some of the limitations with key schedules, totally. So people aren't necessarily going to have to learn Dynamo like they were before. I don't know whether this is good or a bad
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I think we really want to support the idea that you can automate things and, we want to provide new ways to do it. Sasha mentioned the parameter work, but we have, a brand new Sketch API for floors, ceilings, wall profiles, and openings that will will basically change how people create elements, which is awesome through the API. And we also added like a view title placement API, which is something that, if you've done any automated sheet creation in Dynamo, like that's going to be a huge deal. A color fill API.
Had an architect that wanted it right aligned for whatever reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
You can do it. Yeah,
exactly.
So the cool thing is, we talk about these API features and they're really powerful, but the big impact is that they're now also available to Dynamo, right? Anything that's available to the API is available in Dynamo. So creation of floors, creation of ceilings, modifying shaft opening sketches, wall profile sketches, all those things now you should be able to do through Dynamo. Color fill, all those things now you can actually start to automate. Another big one on the API actually is the creation of cloud models. So in Revit Cloud Work Sharing, you can now initiate and link through the API. So that's really powerful in terms of project setup. So you can actually start to create tools that automatically set up your entire project without you having to go manually and go link everything together.
Yeah, and I just add too on the Dynamo side, we also think it's important to make it easier for Dynamo users to get into the product and not require so many custom nodes and custom creations. So we're adding like 67 new Dynamo nodes that are focused on documentation specifically. So like view and sheet creation in particular are, going to be big, and it should make it a lot more consistent and easier so people don't have to require a bunch of different packages perhaps, and we can cover some of that out of the box.
Look out. They covered all 4 of those things on the list just without looking at the list.
But we do.
Super excited about that seems super minuscule is the tags with multi-leaders.
Oh, I don't think it's minuscule at all, Dana. Like, that's going to be a huge deal. Like, the ability to multi-leader tag and tag a bunch of elements at the same time. And count them. For that. So you can not only tag these things, but we added a new parameter that lets you do the count. So you can like create a tag that says, 25 of these with this information on it, which is going to be, you can do that with leaders, without leaders. So basically the stuff you had to do in a schedule before, now you can do in a sheet, which is pretty powerful. Going to be, I think, pretty exciting. And even just rotate tags, you bring that one up, here's a small one that, before, if you wanted to tag at a 30-degree angle or a 15-degree angle, you had to kind of make a tag that did that, right? To make it look right and get it aligned. Now you can just select a tag and rotate it. So doesn't matter what angle you want. You can select every tag in your view and rotate it all the same. We give you a lot more flexibility just to control how things are going to look in the view as well. So that's pretty exciting, just from a pure, make your drawings look the way you want.
So with the new shared parameter stuff that you have out now, we're going to have to update our shared parameter files. Is the older versions of Revit going to have a challenge with those updated files, or?
Yes, they are, and for multiple reasons. Not because we're adding shared parameters to key schedules, but the main reason is we're also adding a bunch of new categories to Revit.
Oh, okay.
So we're adding. So I think of 8 new categories that can be used for generic modeling. So you can take a generic model family template, create a thing, or an adaptive component. Actually, if you're using adaptive components, you can also use these categories for that. And so basically, if you've created shared parameters that are on these categories, if you try to use that shared parameter file in an old version, it will not like that.
Okay.
Because it's a new category that old version of Revit didn't understand.
Right. And that's fine. It's, as long as we know these things, we can head it off at the pass. What are the other things that we should know about when we're in a, as a BIM manager getting ready to update everyone to 2022?
One of the big ones, sorry, Sasha, I'll let you go in a second, but this one has come up a lot, is the install is now very different.
Oh, that's right. The install is different. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's now we have a new ability to do what we call a custom install, and that happens through Autodesk accounts. So if you go to accounts.autodesk.com, you'll see this option available. It's really powerful. It lets you now create multi-product installs. So the old suites where you could do any products you want, now you can do that. You can basically select those products, create an install, or create a deployment. So creating a deployment is also done through accounts.autodesk.com now. There is no like, it's not like you have to download the installer and create the install in our wizard anymore. That doesn't happen, and it's not available. So that's a pretty significant change. The new experience for deployments also is kind of optimized because it provides you a lot more options. So you can actually choose like which add-ins you want to include. You obviously get control over content paths and the things that were there before, but like add in, choosing whether or not you want work sharing monitor is possible through the custom install wizard.
That's great.
Which is pretty cool.
That's great. Now I don't have to create a deployment with a bunch of different programs that have to run in the right order in order to do the install. That is great.
Yeah, it kind of packages all that stuff up for you and gives you basically a download that you can then use to deploy or install, based on what you're trying to do. That's one of the bigger significant ones that we've that everybody should be aware of.
Sasha, you had something you wanted to say?
No, I was actually, Harlan stole mine, so we're actually one of the things I'm excited about, because this release has so many kind of smaller things that are day-to-day improvements. That actually means we don't have to foundationally change anything about how people work about the product or retrain people or things like that. So I think it's actually, from that perspective, a really positive release, because people can just do more without having to relearn a significant aspect of the product.
Okay, so from a BIM manager point of view, the things we need to get caught up on right away are the new shared parameter file, the new deployment model, and then we should probably also take a look at our templates to make sure the schedules still work and things like that before we ship it out. What else? Is there anything I'm missing on that list?
Yeah, there's a lot of so like there's changes to multi-category schedules. I already mentioned that you probably want to look at how those are being used. One of the big ones is a BIM manager, if you use view filters a lot, is we've added phase parameters to view filters, which now basically could totally change how you control the visibility of phased objects. Like you can do future phase work. That's a big one as well that people should kind of look at and say, like, how can I take advantage of this thing that's now available? There's the other big one is the revision number piece. I would add, like, revision numbering. We've made it much more flexible to control how things get numbered and set up. So if you can actually define basically all these different sequences and how they apply. So if you're using like a particular standard or have a particular, like ISO, in our case, we looked at ISO 19650 and said, like, what do we need to be able to do to make that happen? So this supports those, and you can start creating, a bunch of different numbering, sequencing variables and options there that give you more control. It's a good one. There's going to be new content. I was just looking the other day. So we have a bunch of new out-of-the-box content that's shipping as well as part of Loadout Family. If you haven't seen Loadout Family, that's our cloud-based way to access Autodesk content. Now, not everybody wants to use it, but we have something like 300 new families that are included that cover all sorts of different things, from like site to furniture to there's a whole big bunch of different random things that are in that packet that should make it definitely students will have access and get easier access to some of that. Something to look forward to as well.
Does that mean new sample models?
No new sample models, sample projects.
Gotcha.
This is content, so it's like families that we've shipped. Basically.
Don't take our advanced sample project away.
No, everybody likes that one, I guess.
Yes. Well, we're used to it.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, we know what's in there.
I was gonna say, actually, one more maybe that
we're
considering is grids in 3D.
Oh,
yes.
To see grids in 3D, so check your templates for, is that something you actually want in your views or not? That's probably another one, but certainly, we did levels a while ago. People kept asking us, hey, can you do grids? Now that's done, and that's going to be available for everybody.
That's great. Our last big upgrade that didn't cause any challenges. It was one where we had to pause to make sure that the project was really ready to go, was from 16 to 17. Because of the big text changes. Do we have any of that kind of stuff going from any release from 17 on up to 22 that we should be aware of for projects? Should we say, hey, we're getting ready to go into this phase of the project, maybe we should hold off upgrading this one, or should we just go for it and live on the edge?
So I would say, yeah, I don't think we've introduced any kind of significant changes like that there.
Okay.
You know, during the text project, we 100% had to say, look, we're completely switching underlying technologies. There is no way for us to get this right and make this change.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, what we do is we try our best as much as we possibly can to say, look, this thing is going to look the same when it upgrades so that your drawings are not changing on you. So I can't guarantee that there's like going to be like, you know, no changes.
Right.
But, you know, for the most part, there shouldn't be anything that's drastically changing the way your models work, where you have to go back and actually clean up something on a regular basis. One other thing to think about is, and I'm just going to do a little plug here, cloud model upgrade as part of what is now Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro, previously BIM 360 Design. That makes upgrading easy. Right, one click, your entire project is upgraded, and there is a test upgrade which will let you know, what are the, are there warnings or things like that that happen during that process. So if you're looking for an easy way to do things, highly recommend it. And then that's going to start being available. It's going to be available as part of the European server, because we now have something to upgrade kind of in the new Autodesk docs, and then in BIM 360. So that should be available as well.
Yeah, this year, one of the things I could say about this year, actually, I'm most worried people will miss stuff because we're not really doing shiny objects that everybody's going to look at and see, but there's a lot of these small things that you might not realize, like, hey, you can tag curtain wall mullions now, and like you might miss that, right? Where before you had some text or you're doing something crazy. So like it's less about what's going to change really this year in particular, but if you are upgrading from 2016 right to 2022, you are going to probably have to look at text again. Like that's always going to be there, unfortunately. So
yes, we expect that one. I was just asking because you did such a great job with the 2016 to 2017 conversion and warning everybody of that change, which was a nice thing to do. Thank you. I just wanted to ask on this upgrade to see if there was anything we should be worried about in upgrading our existing models.
Yeah, it's the right question to ask. So I'm glad you guys actually asked that. But luckily we can say, no reason to worry.
No reason, just go for it, live on the edge. No.
Let us know if that's not the case, please, right?
There was a class that I taught at, it was RTC at that time, where I showed how to upgrade a model quickly and how to check it with Bluebeam using the compare tools. So you may want to think about that as well. Do a full print to PDF and then do the same full print to PDF after the upgrade. And then you can use the compare tools to figure out what changed on you, which is a handy little thing to do. Walls. What the heck's going on with walls these days?
Well, we've been working on walls for a little while now, starting, I think, almost 2 years ago. And this year we're adding tapered walls. So this basically means that you can have a variable thickness layer in your wall construction and control both angle sides. So it gives you a lot more flexibility to retaining walls and just more complex wall conditions than you ever could, out of the box. So you don't need an in-place family or something else to be able to do that. Which
is it one taper or multiple tapers on the wall?
It's just one taper.
One taper.
Obviously, because walls are pretty flexible. If you have multiple angles of the same section,
so you could do a stacked wall.
Yeah, you could create a bunch of different ones if you want, and it's kind of nice because there's actually type properties for it. So like if you have a retaining wall that is always tapered at a certain set of angles, you can set that up initially and kind of have that just be part of the standard wall creation, or you can actually have it and override the angles as well. So you can create kind of both situations where you get instance level control and type level control.
What does that do to doors?
It follows along with what we did with slanted walls last year, which is we give you the option of choosing whether or not it follows the face or the slant, or if it's vertical or if it follows the slant, basically. So it gives you that flexibility to choose, what kind of condition do you want to create with the door? That's always a fun one with slanted walls. Like, is the door going to work? So, same thing with Windows. Anything hosted. That's the thing about that. Anything that you host, even if it's a face-based component or if it's a wall thing, like you can choose whether it follows the slant or is straight up and down, which gives you that like ability to either create a really thick wall that the wall, the window is straight, or angle it depending on what you need.
We do that with curtain walls as well.
It works with curtain walls too.
Great.
Well, doors and you can also replace a curtain wall panel with a wall if you want, and really create some complex stuff. But yeah.
Any new tabs this year? Speaking of not making it fancy.
New tabs? What do you mean?
A new tab, like how a few years back Dynamo went from in the add-ins to now in the managed tab, or new, like just a brand new tab. Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean by new tab? I don't think we have any new tabs.
No new tabs. No.
No new tabs. Still the same old diet drink.
Yeah, actually, some buttons, like format stuff. The format converter used to be its own little add-in in the add-ins thing. Now it's reduced now to like one button. So everything's incorporated in the actual product and importing CAD. Like now we just have the convert families to format files basically is that button. So that's still available, but yeah, everything else is I think pretty much the same.
Great.
Speaking of small kind of enhancements for just general working with the UI, we've got a bunch of resizable dialogues in there. So that one is, I think, will make it's one of those things that makes people excited. In particular, the view filters dialog, there was a complaint about being able to drag that first column. You can now actually resize it and see the names of our. Hopefully that makes some people happy. There's a bunch of other stuff as well. That I think is like at least five or six different dialogues that are made resizable. And those are the kind of things, if there are other things that are really bothering you, just let us know. We'll see if we can actually make that resizable for you.
There, I got the list. So it's transfer project standards, sync with central, purge unused, wall sweeps, warnings, view filter panels. Oh, and multi-line text. So if you do multi-line text parameters, that's not resizable as well. And view filters do multi-selection now as well. So you can multi-select a bunch of view filters all at the same time, which is pretty cool.
Does it remember your view size when it pops back up?
Yes, it does. So it remembers how you set it and remembers that setting for you. That's actually one of the other things that we've done is try to get a lot better at remembering what you've done so that when you come back the next time, it's better. So in particular, the modify tools, there's like 9 or 10 of them on the modify ribbon. Now we'll remember the options that you've picked. So if you've picked like multiple or copy or whatever you've set offset to, it remembers that for the session, not only the session, but it'll remember it next time you come back to Revit. It's actually all stored in the Revit INI. So you can actually go back and if you want to customize it, you can.
That's wonderful. So we could customize that for out of box and then they can change it to whatever they want and copy their INI and away they go.
Yeah, and we did set some new defaults for like, copy. I think one of the big ones was copy now is multiple by default because that always was a things people wanted. So yeah, tried to make it a little bit easier and just simpler.
Right. If it doesn't put a smile on your face, you're not going to be happy, right?
So I saw a couple of
multi-select and view templates by chance. I know that was one recently I wanted to be able to do is select multiple view templates at once. I couldn't.
I don't. That is not something that
maybe on the next one.
Maybe on the next one. Maybe .1.
There's always more. There's always more.
Write that one down.
You can do that through Dynamo, so I know that it's available.
Okay.
Another reason that we want to keep pushing Dynamo for stuff to help as we get to these things.
We don't want to take everything away from them.
Right.
Still gotta use Dynamo for some things, right?
Right, Dana. We got to keep you busy.
Don't want to be out of work.
Right. That would be bad. All right, content and collaboration.
Yeah, we talked about some of these already in a couple of the other pieces, but Loadout family is our cloud content delivery tool for out-of-the-box stuff. That's now included. It used to just be a tech preview. So that just gives you access. What's nice about it really is it gives you access to everything we provide, no matter the language. So like if you want to look at what we provide in Germany or the UK or wherever you are, it's really easy to set it up and switch and just do a search and find what you're looking for, and then load that into your model. We talked about there's new sample content that goes along with that. That's all included. There's like 300 families. Those are the content ones. So.
Okay. What about performance?
Performance, great question. So there are about 18 performance improvements, give or take, in the product overall. A couple that are worth calling out. One of them is Revit Home and the loading performance, how fast it takes to open. It's up to 40% faster.
Wow.
So that's really exciting. The other thing is if you were, if you're using 2021, sorry. I get my release is confused.
I'm glad you do too.
If you're using 2021, but not the 0.1 release, that's also now those improvements are included, and the 2021.1 release actually introduced much faster download times for Revit Cloud work sharing models. So that was something that both fetching and actual download were much more efficient, especially if you're a broadband kind of network, with a good connection. Right. So I think those are really big in terms of working with cloud models. And I know everybody's remote still because of COVID. So it's hopefully a big improvement in terms of performance.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say here is performance. We've heard our customers loud and clear. We know that we've used up the bandwidth that we kind of created when we did, significant performance and improvements in Revit 2015, 2016. I know that everybody's gotten to the point where the model is so much bigger that they need that improved performance. So this is 100% something that is on our roadmap to look at going forward. How do we do more of those so that we actually get performance to a state where people are happy again, like they were.
Yeah, the models aren't getting any smaller, are they?
No.
We're all getting smarter in Revit. We're all putting more things in Revit. So they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Carl, what do you got?
I was going to ask, I see that you now have support for IFC4 format. I like that. And it mentions some performance and quality improvements. Anything particular there or just sort of general cleaning up?
Just a lot of general cleaning up. But this is my pitch to go check out our release notes, I guess is what I would tell you guys. Because that's something that, we'll have a lot of what's new for a feature perspective, but we fixed a lot of issues and, address them. IFC for us is also just one of those things we're going to be investing a lot more heavily into. You guys may have heard we joined the Open Design Alliance. And that's where, we're going to be able to modernize our IFC engine and really take advantage of it. These things are focused in 2022 right now on kind of just performance, scalability, fixing issues and bugs that are affecting IFC. And we're really happy that we got IFC4 expert certification. You mentioned, Carl, that's been a long time. We've been working on it for a while. MEP is on our roadmap next. So we have architecture and structure, but yeah, so we're going to keep plugging away to make IFC good within Revit.
Awesome.
Informed design and people flow. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, that's so this was another technology preview that we launched last summer-ish, fall. This was all about providing some tools within Revit for understanding the impact of social distancing, really, as part of COVID. So we provided 4 specialized tools. One that lets you do all centered around path of travel. So path of travel came out a couple of years ago, letting you pick any 2 points in your model and it'll show you how a person would move, to those 2 points. Pretty handy. And then with these tools, they're all kind of supplementing that. So we have multiple paths. So if you pick 2 points, you can set a quarter distance basically, and it'll find all the routes to those 2 points basically. So they if you want to figure out one-way travel and that kind of thing as well, which is the other thing we've added is the ability to do one-way travel indicators. So if you have hey, this is an exit only door and people can't be walking in, you can actually document that with a special arrow, and path of travel will take that into account. So no more accidentally walking outside the building and then back in if that was actually shorter than going through the building. And then we added people as obstacles. So the ability basically to just drop in a little family with a circle around it. You know, it was the 6 foot, kind of 2 meter social distance circle, and then path of travel takes that into account. So if you want to navigate around people, or, you know, the use case is see like, hey, everybody's sitting at their desk. Can anybody walk now through this space without getting in their way? Like, now you can actually check that kind of thing with those tools.
Right. So if Carl's walking down the hall, I could have a Carl family and then say, oh, well, Carl's in that hall. I want to go down this other hall instead.
Exactly. So you can like block off routes and see how, you know, is there another way for me to walk around Carl, or do I have to get in line? Right.
Yeah.
That kind of a quick, easy way to analyze existing models for those kind of conditions.
Yeah. We'll call it the Carl feature.
Nice. Thanks, Bill.
Anytime. Anytime at all. All right. Efficiencies. What else we got? We talked about that. We talked about tapered walls, which is cool. Civil structure stuff. Looks like there's more stuff in there for our civil friends.
Yeah, we started this last year where we added the ability to bring in an alignment from InfraWorks. So if you're working on a bridge model. So we've basically added some more documentation capability around that, adding basically some changes to the alignment stations that could be placed along that alignment, giving you prefix and suffix control. We did some API work to control the start and end station and actually be able to read that so you can understand where you're beginning, where you're ending. And a minor change with flip control, because before you basically could place stations on the alignment, but they were always in one direction. If you wanted to flip them over, you had to like delete them and redo it. So now you just have a flip control, flip them to the other side. So pretty small tweaks to that workflow overall, but you know, hopefully that'll help people create the documentation they need.
Do you do anything with Rebar? I'm sure that's on everyone's
mind. It's like we're always doing stuff with Rebar.
We love Rebar. I remember writing Rebar code like 10 years ago. So yeah, we love Rebar. Yeah, absolutely. A couple of enhancements of Rebar. One big one is using kind of the real bar diameter. So you can actually change, you know, which representation of rebar you're using. So for measurements, you kind of have both representations now available for that diameter. And then the other cool one is if you have a rebar set, you can now move an individual bar in it. So you can really make those adjustments. If there's a clash or something like that, you can move it, delete it, and treat it kind of as an individual object and make those adjustments to really get the exact position right.
Dana, you got a question, I can tell.
It's all sinking in. I feel like there's so much, you know, I've been a little bit critical of this roadmap that you guys threw out. I was like, okay, you know, it's easy to just throw everything on the roadmap from the ideas page, right? But now it seems like you guys are following through with it. I'm super excited. I'm really excited to get in there and start playing with them, especially all these Dynamo nodes.
Yes, all the news, the 67 new Dynamo nodes for documentation,
especially the view titles and some of those, you know, operability things that we have been missing, you know, key values and shared parameters and all that fun stuff. So allowing it to just percolate in here in terms of all the things I can do.
Yeah,
I think this is I'm going to steal Harlan's phrase for this. Like, you should be able to find something here for anyone, right? If there's not something in this release for you, you know, but I'd be surprised at best. But I think there is something here for everyone and for everybody's workflow. And I think that, you know, I said at the beginning of this, like, I was really excited about it. That's why, because I really feel like there's a little bit or even a lot of it for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even, you know, there's stuff for like visualization. We didn't even talk about that. But like we're adding new RPC content. I didn't mention that in the content thing, or we have new 3D RPC, which now like they actually look better. We have cars, which is, you don't just have to live with the VW bug.
Oh,
Familiar with
really?
that? Like, we
No
actually have some
way.
pickup
Maybe a
trucks
van or
and
a
like
truck, yeah.
a Honda Odyssey. You know, we've got some stuff there, and there's an airplane. Like, if
There's
you
an
really want to go
airplane.
big.
Yeah, I saw that.
So you know, there's some of that. We also added for RPC the ability to use RPC content in furniture families. So if you're doing like, you know, interior design and you want a lightweight family, but you have a lot of good like RPC materials you could use, you can actually do that where it renders the, you know, great looking RPC, but your family can be kind of dumbed down. And then we added some performance options. Speaking of performance, forgot to mention this, Sasha, where, you know, if you have a lot of RPC, traditionally that can be kind of a bog to working in Revit and the view, especially if you're rendering. So now we provide some display options where you can choose like RPC face forward if you're not moving the camera at all and you just want to see everybody. It's like billboard mode. And then we also add just turn off. So if you're in a working view, you don't have to control it with visibility and graphics. You can actually control it with a setting for the graphics of the view instead. And you don't have to just turn off all your content. You can actually just say, well, I don't want this stuff to show up right now. It's a kind of nice little easy switch to gain extra performance if you're like on a lower end machine or something like that.
I don't think anyone has a lower end machine anymore.
You'd be surprised.
You mean my i5 is a low end machine?
No, I like graphics card wise, Bill.
Graphics cards. Oh,
yeah.
So my GeForce 8900 is a little old.
Not that bad. That's better than a lot. I mean, I think to let you guys know, we see a lot of integrated GPUs. So you know, Intel integrated graphics.
Right.
That's like the top used thing.
I bet.
Basically. So
is escape still the top key? The top command?
Yes. By a long margin or by a wide margin.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because the escape key is like the clear all button on the calculator. The more you hit it, the clearer your calculator gets, right?
I find myself going to other software and like hitting escape. I'm like, this doesn't do anything.
This isn't doing it. What the heck? So it looks like you hired an exterminator and killed a lot of bugs too.
That's a constant. You know, that's something though we love to highlight in this because, like, sometimes it goes you know, nobody sees that side of it.
Right.
Nobody wants to talk about it because they're like, oh, you have bugs, but every software has bugs. So for us, like, it's a big deal. 500 plus issues resolved in the release. Most of those come directly from customer feedback. So we're addressing things that people have reported, you know, over multiple years and getting that, you know, out there. And so it's the most stable and, you know, fixes a ton of stuff that people have had to run into.
Absolutely. Yeah, you look at Revit years ago and compare it to the Revit we have today. And it was like save early, save often, save again. And now we've got people running all day. It's like, you haven't saved? What do you mean you haven't saved in 3 hours, 4 hours? So they still should save. But yeah, it's a testament to how well your team is doing when it comes to that and how much they care.
Well, I can tell you, our teams actually have a goal of having 0 open crashes. So
really,
yes.
How close are you?
I don't have the number off the top of my head. And the reason it's not 0 is actually not because the teams aren't focusing on it. They're actually supposed to fix them like basically as soon as like number 1 priority once you get a crash. Some crashes are actually really difficult to reproduce. And that's why some of them are not fixed. So we do have some that stay open longer, and we kind of try to figure out what's happening. By the way, when you get that little window, that's a crash report. We do actually look at those. So if you can provide us information about like what you were doing when you crashed and your contact information, it's a huge deal because we may actually reach out to you and say, hey, can you give us some more information? And then we can, and that's really how we get to those non-reproducible ones. We actually do reach out to people based on that. So if you're wondering, does that go anywhere? Does anybody look at it? 100% yes. And it's really helpful because that helps us understand like how often are people crashing and things like that. So crash reports, please file them.
Yeah, so I've actually had Autodesk support call me and said, hey, you had a crash yesterday at this time. Can we get your journal file or can we get this? Can we talk about it? It was very nice that indeed happened. Well, Wasn't nice the crash happened, but it was nice that Autodesk did call.
Well, with any luck, you don't see those.
Right.
You don't worry about it. But if you do, please do.
Yeah, trying to get to 0 crashes, I can see, can be very difficult because some of the crashes are out of your control. Software drivers or video drivers and things like that can cause challenges as well.
Yeah, or models or all sorts of different reasons, right? That it might only happen in this particular situation or this particular thing. So submitting that submitting those reports and not just ignoring them, super valuable for us.
Okay. Carl, I'm going to give you the honors of final thought, unless Dana has one.
Give me the honors unless Dana has one. Thanks for giving me that, Bill.
You're welcome.
Well,
I take that back.
Did I lose my chance? Did I use my chance of the thunder? Really, I just sort of was going to point out what we've said a couple times and what Sasha mentioned when she did, is that there's a lot of things here that particularly for this group of people here on the call that are more technical minded, that are more sort of the back end, the BIM manager, the set things in place where there may not be that shiny thing, but all these tiny little things that make our life a lot easier, that get the requests from all the end users to say, why can't I resize this dialog box? Or, why can't I export this? Or why can't I get a CSV file? So these are sort of all those little things that seem like you said should be an easy fix that now are. And people that those people that wait to just upgrade on odd years or are still on 2018 for whatever reason, they're going to notice some huge things. But this is really a nice release, as you said, Sasha. But maybe not any massive splashy things, but the stuff that's there is really going to improve performance. And for the majority of us, that's the big thing. We want that better in performance. We want the end users to be happy with what they're using. I guess that was a thought. You said final thoughts. That was a thought. It wasn't a question.
That was a thought. That was a good thought. Yeah. Dana?
No, I'm going to let Carl have the final thought. That was the final thought.
Okay, good. All right. Harlan, anything else you want to add that you may have forgotten and just remembered? Because you've done these like 100 times.
Thank you guys for having us. And we didn't say that in the beginning. Like, we really appreciate getting to chat with you and share what's going on. We're super excited. Like Sasha said, I think, for us, was a lot of work to do all this. And, we're really hoping people can adopt. And there's a lot of reasons for people to. So I hope they take advantage. And, we're excited to see what you guys talk about when we're not in the room. That's important too. So, we're constantly trying to get feedback and trying to hear from everybody. We'll watch all your guys, everything. Dana, we saw you on the BIM After Dark the other night talking about stuff. And, those are things that, we try to pay a lot of attention to, and we take really seriously the feedback that this group and our customers in general give. So, we're hoping, we hope you guys like it, but we always want that feedback as well about what we can do better.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being on. Sasha?
Yeah, I'm gonna latch on to what Harlan was saying. Yeah, we want that feedback. So if you are interested in sending us feedback, and this goes directly to us and a few other PMs, Revit feedback@autodesk.com. You can just get directly in touch with us. We'll have a conversation with you because we, to be honest with you, we love talking to our customers and we love hearing your feedback. So please feel free to reach out to us. It really does help us make a better product for everybody.
And that's Revit feedback@autodesk.com.
Correct.
Okay. And I do have one last question because
you got the final thought.
Well, this is now that we're here, 2022 is out. Yay.
Yay.
Do you get any time before it's in the trenches doing 2023?
No. That ship sailed 3 months ago.
Yeah, that's what I expected.
All right.
Well, thanks for all the hard work for sure.
Yeah, thanks. And I hope that couple-day rest was worth it. Well, thank you so much for being on. We will hopefully we can talk to you again at the .1.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd love to be here.
Great. Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching and /listening.